Okay, so Ayurveda and the art of eating. The goal of this presentation today will be to introduce you to the main principles of Ayurveda. We'll also talk about the main mechanisms that are described in Ayurveda to bring and prevent illnesses and bring harmony and health in the body. For that, we'll focus on the food rituals. So what we call ahara in Ayurveda, which means, the intake, what our body ingests to remain healthy. And finally, we learn some practical knowledge about how to design the best plate of food, how to eat, when to eat, and also the common wrongs and what we tend to do that we shouldn't. So what to avoid. One of the most important things that Ayurveda says is that 99%, between 90 and 99% of diseases can be prevented if you have a good diet. And they emphasize most of that on the digestion. 99% of diseases could be prevented with a good digestion. And even in Western medicine, Hippocrates said that all diseases begin in the gut, which is why Ayurveda put such an important aspect on the good food rituals to prevent those imbalances from happening. And when we see the statistics of the United States, I focused on the United States for this, but there's also worldwide statistics. You can see that there's been a rise of obesity that are often linked to poor digestion. Also, dental problems that can rise because of wrong digestion. Heart diseases, diabetes, especially diabetes of type 2, which is the one that is not genetic, that has been increasing over the past decade. That can be accompanied or not with high blood pressure and cholesterol. And all those physical illnesses can be directly related to mental illnesses. This is one of the main things in Ayurveda. They say that the connection between mind and body is fundamental in the treatment of illnesses, but also in the prevention of health. A little bit about the history of Ayurveda. So I don't know if many of you are familiar with it or not, but Ayurveda is a very, very old living science. It's been developed thousands and thousands of years ago. Actually, some people say 3,000 years, other people say 10,000 years. Sorry, I'm admitting people in the room as I speak. So no one really knows when Ayurveda has been created. The Vedas, which are this whole group of texts that are common to Tantra, to Yoga, and to Ayurveda. Some people say that it's been created even before the apparition of the universe. So that can tell you about how old Ayurveda is. But how did it come to us? So I don't know if you're familiar with Hindu or Buddhist philosophy and traditions, but there is this being called Brahma, which is considered to be as the creator of the universe. And we say that the knowledge of Ayurveda has been directly transmitted from Brahma to seers or rishis in India, in the mountains of the Himalaya. And those rishis and seers have been transcribing what came through visions and through their senses, and used it to write the Vedas and write Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is an organic science. Organic in the sense that, like, if I can try to make you grasp exactly what Ayurveda is about, one of my teachers was saying that when we talk about organic food, we talk about a seed that's planted in the soil, and then as it grows, it basically grows through the influences of the elements around it. So the best of what can appear and grow and come out of the soil will appear. And the same thing with us. we were, first of all, just potential, unexpressed potential, and then a seed was planted. In our case, it's through our mother and father, and then we were born. And as we grow, the experiences and the external elements and the external experiences shape who we are on a day-to-day basis. So Ayurveda will take that into consideration. Hope it's clear enough. So Ayurveda also emphasizes on the importance of positive health and maintaining that health. And its main focus is on preventing the imbalances that lead to disease. So you see that there's a big accent on prevention. Of course, there is a lot of aspect that comes to curing a disease, but like they said, 99% of them can be prevented if we know what to do. So as a main definition of Ayurveda, Ayurveda is a Sanskrit term. So the Sanskrit term is made of two roots. The first one is Ayus, which means life and longevity, and Veda, which means knowledge, wisdom, or science. So we say that Ayurveda is the science of life. Like I told you before, it is derived from the Vedas, and specifically one of the four Veda, which is the Atharva Veda. So each one of the Vedas complete each other, and they will talk about the liberation and life and living through different aspects. One Veda will be more about mantra, another one will be more about health and yoga. So yeah, Ayurveda is focused on the body and how the body remains healthy in life. And like I told you also, so we say that the origin of Ayurveda would be from the rishis that saw the knowledge directly from the creator of the universe. And although this is a very old science, it still applies today because it's based on fundamental truths about how the universe is made. And we'll go more in detail about this in the next slides. What makes Ayurveda special? Well, the first thing that makes Ayurveda special is that it respects the uniqueness of the individual. When we go to a modern Western doctor, and we talk about our symptoms when we have a disease or that we feel unhealthy, the main focus will be on, I see the symptom, I'm going to give you something for this. So if you have a headache, it will give you painkillers. If you have stomachache and so on and so forth, it will treat the symptom. With Ayurveda, it will take into consideration your constitution and the causes that are underlying the symptoms in order to cure it to the source. So that's one of the most beautiful things about Ayurveda. It also considers all the levels of an individual, body, mind, and spirit. You cannot treat a disease without having a clear look on the mind. And the spirit is incorporated in a treatment because they also adopt this concept of karma, just in the sense that there are some actions on which we have some control, but there's others, like genetics, for instance, where it's a little bit more difficult to create a change. So you have to be able to adapt you have to be able to adapt and incorporate mind, body, and spirit in the treatment. Also, it offers natural ways of treating diseases and promoting health. So we'll not use pharmaceuticals and chemicals, we'll use plants, and we'll also use spices and herbs and also even animal products to provide a treatment. It emphasizes on prevention, which I think is great. I mean, imagine never being ill ever. That would be amazing. And that's one of the things that Ayurveda doesn't want to happen. So they have a long list of practices and things that you can do to prevent disease from happening. And this leads us to the next point. It does empower everyone to take responsibility. There is a series of mantra and songs that you can, in which you can perceive the importance of just waking up, awakening the healer in everybody. So you are responsible for your own health. And in the treatment, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the person that's going to be there through the journey for your recovery and for your health. That is one of the very most important things, Ayurveda. And finally, it is cost effective. You can heal yourself with the food that you eat. You can heal yourself with the spices that you take. So we'll go over this. It's a very deep topic, but we'll look into it together. Just some tips that I would like to share with you. All right. What are the 4 goals of life? So those 4 goals of life have been described in all the sacred texts, Indian texts. The first one is Dharma. Dharma is basically your sense of self and your righteousness. We have some goals in life, but we also have some responsibilities and functions in life. So if you are a mother, or if you are a woman, or if you are a teacher, all of those things will imply that you have a mission through life to conduct, and a purpose also for existing and be among your peers. So Dharma is one of the first goals of life. Then you have Artha, which is the means and the wealth and the possessions that you have, which will help you to accomplish your Dharma. So for example, it could be as material as having a car and a house, but it can also be immaterial, like the skills that you have or this uniqueness about you that make you special and the best at doing the things the way you do. Then there is Kama, which is enjoyment, enjoyment of everything. And it's not necessarily enjoying as a positive thing, but also experiencing the feelings and the emotions that come with being alive. This is Kama. And finally, Moksha, which is the liberation from the worldly concerns and worldly issues of life. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha are considered to be the 4 goals of life. And to accomplish those 4 goals, you need health. You need a body that is healthy. But we need to understand what it means to be healthy according to Ayurveda. So when it comes to health and disease, it's all a matter of balance. A body that is balanced is healthy. A body that is in a sign of imbalance is unhealthy. But balance and imbalance is like a very tricky thing to achieve, in the sense that life changes throughout the day. There are 4 seasons, there's night and day, there is a life and a constant movement and change happening all the time. So how do you make sure that this pretty much dance is always balanced and contributing to health? This is where the practices of Ayurveda come into play. But we can see that health and disease are not necessarily so opposites. They are just 2 sides of the same coin. And as we see the body tends to get imbalances, it also has the power to heal itself. And when it comes to diseases, we have 2 locations for disease in Ayurveda: the body and the mind. There. To promote health in life, or actually the basis for life, goes from 3 things. Ahara is the intake, the food that we take. And we'll see that there are actually different types of food, not necessarily just material food. Then Nidra, which is sleep. We spend a lot of time sleeping. We need to sleep. The body needs this time of rest to incorporate the experiences, to rest the body, recharge itself. And Brahmacharya, which is abstinence. So when we talk about abstinence here, we're not talking about sexual abstinence. We're talking about the ability of the mind to say, this is enough of that. For example, whether it is eating or enjoying yourself or exercising or studying, there is the right amount of everything to do in order to prevent illness from happening. So ahara, food, sleep, and abstinence or control, self-control, are the 3 pillars of life described in the Vedas and in Ayurveda. And with those pillars of life, which are beneficial, which are important and essential to preventing health, we also adopt 4 principles in Ayurveda to decide what to do when someone is out of balance. So the first thing that we need to keep in mind is that all things in the universe are joined together. So that comes from the Vedic philosophies. In this case, it is Samkhya philosophy, but it's another subject. I'm just going to summarize it really quickly for you. Basically, it says that we all come from the same source. We all come from the universal consciousness. And this universal consciousness, as it materializes itself, materialize itself in the 5 elements of ether, earth, water, fire, and air. And this is what we're made of. We can say that we're made of oxygen and nitrogen and carbon dioxide and all of those things. We can say that, of course. It's just a different way to put a name on those similar concepts. When we look at scientific, more, I say Western, but it's Greek, it's Latin, it's, this is where it came from. They put more an emphasis of the single particles that constitute us. When it's about Ayurveda, it's more about those energies, and it's more about those elements and the forces within those elements. It's really the same thing, different ways of looking at it. It also says that every human being contains everything that can be found in the universe. So we are this similarity between the macrocosm and the microcosm. We are living some crazy times at the moment with the pandemic and all those things that are happening. If we observe it at the macro level, and we can see it from a very far distance, the whole universe, we can also see that in ourselves. And this is a very important part of the vision and concept of Ayurveda. The third principle is that health will be good if the body and mind connection is in harmony with the universe. And if that connection is natural and wholesome, health will prevail. It's tricky to say, right? I mean, it's a concept that can feel so abstract. But when the material side of things and the mind is very at rest and quiet and calm, I think that we can sense, I mean, I know from personal experience, it's easy to sense the connection with everything and to know really when you're in balance and not. And the final principle is that disease will arise when a person is out of harmony with the universe. There is one thing that, once again, our Vaidya teacher have told us, is that diseases come from desire. So how will desire impact and cause a disease? When desire happens, there is this clinging and this attraction towards something, and also the aversion towards another. And this will play on the mind. The mind will start craving things and start focusing on that thing. And that can basically cause us to have either an overuse of our senses, a misuse of our senses, or even just do something that we know fundamentally, deeply, that it's not necessarily good for us, but we're going to do it anyway. So they say most of the time that desire is the main cause for disease to happen. Now I just wanted to show you the main differences between conventional nutrition as we know it here. I mean, and by here I mean the United States, but in a developed modern country, and Ayurvedic nutrition. The main thing from my own observation that you can notice from the conventional nutrition is that we talk mostly about calories, and we talk about the components that the body needs. We talk about proteins, minerals, and all the it's like material nutrients. Whereas in the Ayurvedic nutrition, it's not so much about the physical components of what we eat. It's about the energy and the flow within the food that we eat. It's about the prana. Prana means life force, life energy. So it's about this life force mostly. And that is really the main thing. So when we look at the conventional nutrition, we'll see that the reasons why we eat will be mostly because of our personal preferences. Maybe we prefer eating spinach over broccoli, or we prefer eating pizza over a salad. And also the habits, how my mom's fed me, how our family and culture have defined what we eat, and also where do I live right now. And also body image a lot. So how does my body looking? What do I need to do to lose the fat, etc. In Ayurvedic nutrition, we'll talk about prana. We'll talk about what are the energies that I need fundamentally to fulfill my dharma. And remember the four goals: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So it's about that. The nutritional elements in conventional nutrition would be calories, proteins, vitamins. I hear so much about how many calories in this meal. You need 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day. And it's about this calorie in, calorie out kind of thing to make sure you're in shape and so on. In Ayurveda, we do not think this way, because every single, 50 calories of sugar will not be 50 calories of protein. It's not how the Ayurvedic mind works. The importance is mostly focused on the calorie value. And in Ayurveda, it will be on the individual constitution. Like I said before, Ayurveda will really see you as a unique being. You are not made like anybody else. You are made from the fruit of your mother and father, and then there is your soul that came in, and there is also the way you were born, the experiences that shaped you throughout your life. This made you like no one else. And Ayurveda will really take that into consideration to say, this is what you should be eating. So even if you are reading a bunch of articles online and blogs and stuff about Ayurveda, and they say, this is what you should be eating and so on and so forth, it's still so generalized that it's okay, but it should be way more specific to each and every individual. Conventional nutrition now, balance is on the food ingredients. So like I said, you need some vegetables, and you need some proteins, and then you need some fibers, and so on and so forth. Ayurveda will consider a balanced diet based on Prakriti and Vikriti. So Prakriti means individual constitution, what you're made of. Vikriti means your imbalances at the moment. It could be as trivial as you are someone that is well-built and strong, exercise really well, you have a good stamina and a good digestion, but this is winter, and because it is winter right now, you're experiencing some fatigue, some sensation of cold, some phlegm and congestion. Your diet will change because of this. And I mean, I can just go as far as just talking about, seasonal vegetables. You do not get the same vegetables throughout the year. So you will adapt your diet also seasonally and based also on your imbalances. And finally, the dietary recommendations, they will depend on food group when it comes to conventional nutrition. Like right now, you can't see it, but I am like 38 weeks pregnant. And what they told me when I went to see the midwives and so on and so forth, they say I should focus on protein, because if I get too much carbs, I'm going to gain another 20 pounds, so something like that. But when I talk to my Vaidya, Ayurvedic Vaidya, she will tell me you need to focus on a specific taste, because this taste is about strengthening the body, and it's about, receiving a new life and providing for that new life. So you see here, they don't have the same speech, the same understanding of what a good dietary recommendation should be. So when you'll see a nutritionist, he will not have the same discourse as an Ayurvedic counselor or practitioner. So you see, if I go back, we talked here about the Pancha Mahabhutas, which are the 5 elements. 5 elements, I remind you, are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So I just wanted to get a little bit deeper into this concept because it is basically one of the main concepts of Ayurveda. We talked about this universal consciousness that expressed itself, so it needs to materialize into something that you can experience through your 5 senses. And what you need to experience it are the 5 elements. We are made of those 5 elements. If we can even take it through the body, your soul would not have any means to experience this universe if it didn't have a body. And this body materialized itself from this most subtle, which is your consciousness, to the more material, which are the 5 elements. So if we look at them in detail, the first one is Akasha or ether. So ether is like space. It's like this emptiness. There's nothing in it. It's just silence. Yeah, it is silence, but it is connected to the sense of sound. So what we mean by that is that you need this space in order for it to have a vibration to express. Without this space, there is no sound, which is why our ear even is made in a way that there is a hole and there is this internal ear, and through the vibrations, you can hear something. So that is ether. Then comes air that will express through ether. So that is the first vibration. You can even take it to this level of how the universe got created. There was space and nothing, and then there was a sound. This is what the Vedas tell us it is the way the world was created, according to those sacred texts. The primary sound. And I'm sure for the yoga practitioner in the room, you will know the first sound that we talk about, which is the Pranava sound, which is Om. And Om is the sound of the universe. So from ether and space, the first vibration created the universe, and that is Vayu, air, and it's connected to the sense of touch. The sense of touch meaning when there is air or friction that happens to your skin, even when you are in the wind and so on, you can feel touch on you. Without this, you wouldn't be able to. Then you have fire. So fire is when there is more and more friction happening. It will be so intense that will create this light and illumination and this fire. And that is connected to the sense of sight. Without light, without the sun, without fire, you wouldn't be able to see anything. You'd be completely in the dark. And then you have water, which is basically the condensation of the vapor that got created from the heat that was created. And that is water. So water is connected to the sense of taste. If you were to scrape your tongue and make it completely dry, you wouldn't be able to perceive a taste. And finally, earth. So the earth is the mix of, it's like when the water solidifies, it will become thicker and thicker, and that will create a solid element. And that is connected to the sense of smell. Like if you have even a perfume, or if you smell something in the air, you can only smell it because of the solid particles that flow in the air. So this concept of the Pancha Mahabhutas, the 5 senses, you can see that it's a bottom-down manifestation of the elements, and they basically all contain all 5 elements. There is the 5 elements in each one of them, but the proportions are different. For example, in Akasha, ether, it is ether mostly, but within Akasha, you have all of the other elements, all of the other potentials. So I hope it is clear enough, guys. If you have any questions, write them down. I will gladly go to it afterwards. All right, so now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of things: what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, where to eat. So, what to eat? Food is related to what we intake. So we talked about Ahara, remember, as the 3 pillars of life. So we have Ahara, Nidra, and Brahmacharya. So we're focusing on Ahara here because we're focusing on the food rituals. There's 4 ways we can intake things in our body: food, water, emotions and perceptions, and breath. Breath being like the most subtle prana you can get. So Ahara is basically anything that our body intakes, even through our 5 senses. Ahara will nourish the body and the mind. It will kindle the inner fires. It will bring strength, clarity, radiance, immunity, sharpness of the senses. And a lot of our health will depend on what we intake. So we're going to focus mostly on food. We'll talk a little bit about water, but mostly on the food aspect. So what to eat? Pretty simply, I'll tell you, diversity is key. You need to focus on eating the 6 tastes. Right here, we're talking about someone that is having a knowledge about this prakriti that is balanced. It is very important to eat the 6 tastes. If you have a strong imbalance in the body, then you can tweak it a little bit, but you don't necessarily need to go so far off and cut a taste off because of an imbalance that you can feel, like exhaustion and so on. You really have to focus on bringing diversity to your plate. So what do we mean when we mean the 6 tastes in Ayurveda? There are 6 tastes that our tongue can perceive, and as soon as the tongue will enter in contact with those tastes, there will be receptors that are connected to the brain that will send impulses to the brain, so the brain knows how to incorporate and metabolize the food. The first taste is sweet. We feel it in the tip of our tongue, and sweet is made of earth and water. So it is, I'll show you an example later, actually. The second taste is salty. Salty, you can feel it more at the back on the side of your tongue. It's fire and water, so that will kindle digestions a little bit, and all those rock salts and Malayan salts and all of that that you need. It's good for electrolytes. It's very important. Then you have sour. Sour is on the side of your tongue at the front. It is fire and earth. Then you have pungent like chili, spicy. It's fire and air, so you can feel it in the middle of your tongue. Bitter will be air and ether, and it's pervading the middle of your tongue, but more at the back. And astringent, which is air and earth. So it's kind of like this effect of like drying the tongue, like the tannins in wine. So those 6 tastes, you need to balance them, because every taste has a function for the body. Everything in the universe can be medicine. So when you focus on a specific taste, it will have a curative potential. And as long as you consume these tastes in balance, you make sure that you have this, the balancing aspect of health in Ayurveda. So when we look at the sweet taste, which is earth and water, we said that the sweet taste will build and strengthen the tissues. You need sweet in order to grow. In pregnancy, you need sweet to build, to have a baby, a healthy baby form in your belly, and all the tissues that go with it. That also help improve circulation and complexion. Sweet strengthen the heart. But if you use sweet in excess, you can produce obesity, weak digestion, cough, and so on. Sweet here is not about sugar sweets in terms of candies and fruits and what we call sweet in this in this society. Sweet is carbohydrates, and I don't even want to talk this way, saying carbohydrates and protein and so on. I want to focus on food groups. So for example, nuts are sweet, milk is sweet, oils are sweet, fruits, most of them are sweet, but not all of them. Meat, eggs, grains, those are part of the sweet group. Then you have salty. So salty is fire and water. This salty will increase the digestive fires. So you always need a little bit of salt in what you eat to kindle the fire in your belly. It helps improve digestion, maintains electrolytes, calm the nerves. But once again, if you use it in excess, you can have bleeding diseases, high cholesterol, itching, severe thirst. So not too much salt, guys. Then we go to sour. All those sour. For the salt, it's all about Himalayan salt, pink salt, black salt. This is the salt group. Sour, so it is fire. Hold on, I have a little blank. Sour is fire and earth. Get it? And it will stimulate the acidic secretions. It will increase digestion and circulation. But if you get too much sourness, I mixed salty and sour. So sourness will create defects of vision and bleeding diseases, itching and severe thirst. Salty, what it will do is that it will cause thirst, weakness of the body, burning sensations. So I mixed the two, guys. Sorry about that. When we talk about sour, we talk about lime, lemon, orange. We also talk about fermented food. We talk about cheese, kefir. We talk about kimchi, all of those things. Then we go to pungent. So pungent is fire and air. And it is chili, it is black pepper, it is all those pungent spices that you can feel over, you can say that something is pungent because, for example, you take a chili and then you have this like breathing up reflex. It's just going to activate those spicy elements in your system. So pungent is good to improve metabolism and digestion, helps with absorption, reduces congestion. So if you have a cold, having a black pepper tea is very good. It relieves muscle tension, promotes sweating. But if you have too much pungent, then you will disrupt the digestive system and you could have loose stools and lose too much of the liquids in your body. For bitter is ether and air. It is very good to kindle hunger, purifying the blood, detoxifying the body. It absorbs fat and oiliness and opens up the channels. If you have too much bitter, it will produce weakness and exhaustion and giddiness. So bitter is actually, bitter is also associated to poison. So we get our taste buds. There is many things that come into play in the taste buds. There is the genetics, the culture, and there is also, our past generations. So we have this knowledge and this cellular memory pretty much that came from the dawn of age. And bitter is usually associated with poison. So we don't really like bitter in our diet just because of even this fundamental, old cellular memory. But knowing your bitters, knowing what to use, you see it has great healing and healthy properties. Then you have astringent. So astringent constricts the blood vessels. It is antidiuretic, so for urine and such, antibiotic, antibacterial, and constipating. But if you have too much, it will obstruct the pores, it will cause convulsions, it will cause blockage in your channels. So a type of an example of astringent food would be turmeric, for example. Turmeric is astringent. pomegranate peel, unripe bananas, all of those have astringent qualities, beans, cranberries, and so on. All right, so like I said before, all the 6 tastes is key, because you can see that all the 6 tastes, they all have a particular function and mission for your body. Some of them are nourishing, some of them are stimulating, some of them are kindling, some of them are cleansing. You need all of them. And one of the reasons why we have all those diseases arising is because there's less diversity in the food that we eat. Processed food is so not rich in all those diverse ingredients and elements and strength and energies that we are privating our body from those essential elements. So here we're talking about diets that are rich in phytochemicals. So what are phytochemicals? They are elements that are mostly present in plant, whether it is fibers or minerals and so on, vitamins and such, but those phytochemicals also, no, that's it, rich in phytochemicals. So rich in colors and variety. So that promotes a healthy gut. It reduces intestinal systemic inflammation. It decreases the risk of colorectal cancer. So we looked in those data at the beginning. I didn't go too much into detail in them, but there is a rise in colon cancer, especially in the United States. And that comes from a fiber poor and gut deprived of a healthy microbiota. And that creates those sad diseases. Type 2 diabetes also. And one way to prevent that from happening is diversity. So there is this example, you can see the plate here, which is called the thali diet. So the thali diet is basically a round platter that we call the thali. And then they have, as the main thing, rice or bread. And then they have smaller bowls, which have all those condiments. So they will have legumes, which are called prebiotics. So prebiotic is basically what probiotics, which are the bacteria, need to survive. So we take those pills, or we take kimchi and so on, because we want to have probiotics. We want those bacteria, that's great, but they also need something to feed on. So they need those legumes, they need those beans, and they need vegetables. Then you have the yogurt, and then an assortment of spices and vegetables, which will provide remnants of the tastes and the fibers and phytochemicals. So you have the yogurt here, rice, bread, some dal, which would be the legumes, chickpea, and on all of those, they will put those spices, and we'll talk about that more in detail. So don't hesitate to put lots of colors, lots of variety on your plate. And we're not so far off from what MyPlate.gov recommends. Little side table here. This diagram that you can see on the left differs from one country to the next. So you know that at many levels, the recommended plate for health is a little bit political. There's a little bit of lobbying from, the agriculture and food industry here. Because that's what they say in the United States. That's not what they say in France. And I can compare because I've been living in it now. But what they will tell you, they will say you need mostly vegetables, a little bit of grains, some dairy, some protein, some fruit, because they want you to have the carbs, and they want you to have the protein, they want you to have the vitamins, and the fiber, which is good. And then they will tell you switch to skim or 1% milk. That's like directly extracted from their website. They will tell you at least half your grains whole grain, not like all processed and dehusked and so on, and vary your protein food groups, so beef, fish, chicken. It's okay to have this, but the problem here that it's not a problem, but the difference between this way of talking and the Ayurvedic way of talking is that you see the fruits are as all the same. A banana will be okay as much as an avocado. but actually the banana has a more nourishing power than an apple would have. And you would know that if you could get a banana, saying that the taste is very sweet, but an apple is more sweet and astringent. Then a berry also is sweet and astringent, whereas an avocado is more on the fat aspect of things and sweet. So those subtleties in each and every element that you put on your plate has an impact on the diversity that you choose to have. Even on the vegetables, the root vegetables are sweet in taste, whereas leafy vegetables are in the bitter astringent category. And that's what we see here. That is the recommendation of the right composition of a plate according to Ayurveda. So the first thing that they would tell you is you need to have half of your stomach solid food. Because you remember the ahara, so the food you intake is also the liquid. They will put a third of what's in your stomach as liquid. So it could be tea, buttermilk, lassi, this kind of stuff. But the other third, the last third, is empty. So some people could ask me, how do you know that you're like 2/3 full? This is where connection to yourself comes into play, but it's also, and I've realized that for myself because I've tasted it. It's a Vaidya in our school that told us that, is that when you start thinking, I could keep going, like I could eat more, when this thought comes into your mind, means you can stop. When you're like, should I stop? Should I keep going? This is kind of like a clue that you're good to stop. Or even burping, the burps, is also a sign that you're good to stop. There was another thing that they told us, is like, if you take both of your hands like this and make a cup, this is the amount of food that your stomach can handle. We don't have all the same size of hands. They call this an anjali in Ayurveda. This is a way of measuring food that you eat, so I don't know if you can see. But if you can kind of ascertain or evaluate the amount of food that's on your plate with this, it's more or less the food that you can eat. But I like focusing on the body sensations. It helps a lot. I've realized after doing this so long, personally, I've been eating way more than I should. So eat slowly, listen to your body, and if it says, I could keep going, then it means that you're good. So then what comes to this solid and liquid part? The yellow part here on the right is the sweet taste. So you can see I put for you food groups to help you realize what's sweet. Milk, not dairy. Milk, oil, nuts, grains, meat, red meat and white meat, and fish. That is sweet. Then you have pungent. So pungent would be mostly in terms of spices, like chili, jalapeno, ginger, garlic, black pepper, what else? Ash vine, caraway seeds. What else could that be? Yeah, I think it's pretty good here. Horseradish, pungent. Then you have bitter. So bitter is more like bitter greens, bitter gourd, bitter melon. You have also most leafy vegetables, fenugreek, black tea, turmeric. No, turmeric is astringent, sorry. So all of those would be the bitter. Then in terms of astringency, beans, turmeric, cranberries, blueberries, pomegranate, unripe banana, all of those is astringent. Then you have sour. So sour would be yogurt, cheese, lemons, kefir, kimchi, and then salty, salt, black salt, Himalayan salt. They say that Himalayan salt is the best you can take because even of the property that it has. Sea salt is apparently more contributing to your cholesterol than Himalayan salt. So if you want to keep one salt in your house, you want it to be Himalayan salt. So I hope this is clear for you guys. This is the composition of a plate. If, for example, you were to make eggs and toast for yourself in the morning, well, you have sweet with the eggs and you have sweet with the toast. How about adding some cumin or some black pepper, and then you can have on the side some spinach in the eggs, you know, and then you can have on the side a chai or a black tea, and then all of a sudden you have, and then you add some salt, of course. Then you have all of the, like maybe 4 or 5 of the tastes that are suggested. All right. So when it comes to a more general approach to what to eat, because like I told you, it varies on many things. You have to eat according to your age and your body constitution. Age, because a baby will not eat the same thing as an old person or a very active person in its mid-20, mid-30. When you are a young child, you need to focus on nourishing food. Sweet taste is one of the main things that you should eat because you're building your body, you're building the tissues. When you are in the prime middle part of your life, it's more about processing all the experiences you've had as a young child and experiencing life. So it's about the drive, and it's about being outgoing in life. So it's more, let's just say, like a spicy kind of section of your life, you know? And actually, even you are in the pitta phase of your life at that time. This is another topic. I don't know if I have time to talk about that. But anyway, based on that, based on your age, you have the possibility to digest more food than you would if you were older. When you're older, you want to have more easily digestible foods. And what is easily digestible? What is easily digestible is freshly cooked, moist, and warm food. So that is one of the main things that Ayurveda says as a guideline. And this is very important here. This whole raw thing that I've been into, and I've realized that it is not the best. One of the main causes of diseases in this day and age is low digestive fire. If you have a low digestive fire, which is basically what is cooking the food in your stomach, having raw food is basically having uncooked food. So you're asking even more from your body to process. So we say that salad and like smoothie, green smoothies and stuff is healthy. It is only healthy if you have the fire to digest it. If you don't have the inner fire to digest it, then you will basically have undigested slush in your body, which we call ama. And this ama is going to get stuck in your system, and that's going to create diseases. That's going to create weight gain, lethargy, exhaustion, even anxiety, depression, anything that's like constricting. So that's why we say cook food. So in your last phase of life, and even when you're tired or sick or even pregnant, those moments where you're a little bit weaker, especially in those moments, you want to focus on freshly cooked, moist, warm food. You also have to eat according to the season. You don't eat the same thing in spring as you would need in winter. So for example, in winter, it is way more nourishing. It is cold times. So you will need things that are warm and cooked and nourishing for your system. Whereas if you are in spring, the sun is starting to come, and you have basically this buildup of the reserve that you had made through winter that's starting to melt in your body. So it is a very interesting concept. So what you need to do in spring is eat actually more astringent, bitter food and pungent to clean all this excess of moistness and earth that you've been gathering through winter. When you're in summer, the heat is there, so your body is just generating heat. So you need cooling things to eat and hydrating things. And this is what's really beautiful with living in harmony with the earth. If you just go to the farmer's market every season, you kind of understand what it is that you can eat that would be good for you. In summer, we have watermelon, we have all those fresh fruits, we have, this desire for cold things. Focus on that. This is the cue. And when you're in winter, not much things grow, so you will focus on grains and, more proteins and such, and root vegetables, because this is what this time of the year gives you. When you're in spring, things starts to bud, so they're very young and they're sprouting, which gives them more astringency and bitterness. So this is what you will eat too. So focusing on the seasonal things is really good. All right. What you should avoid. Processed and preserved food. Processed, like we talked about that before, it's because they're not nutritious. This is not something you can naturally find in nature. It's been going through so much that it's lost its prana, it's lost its energy. When we talk about processed food, we talk about anything that doesn't look like you could pick it up from the ground or from a tree. And I'm gonna add in processed food white sugar. If you can ban white sugar from your life, forever, that'd be awesome. And aspartame. Aspartame is not good at all. Aspartame actually has this derivative that is formaldehyde, and basically it just stays in your body and just creates a bunch of nasty stuff. Avoid chemicals. I mean, do I need to? I don't think I need to elaborate on that. Avoid chemicals. Freezing and leftovers. So freezing, the reason why you should avoid freezing frozen food is because when a food emerges from the earth, like I told you, it's made of water and earth in most parts because it's material. But as you freeze them, the volume of ice is bigger than the volume of a water molecule at a liquid normal level. So the connections between the cells when a food is frozen will break. It's not that a frozen food will completely be deprived of prana or of this connection, but in essence, it has way less prana, it has way less life force, life energy. So avoiding freezing food is much better. Avoiding leftovers also. So leftovers, the issue with it is that once the food is cooked, the energy, life force in the food will stay for up to 12 hours. Past that time, there will be much less. The fact that we put something in the fridge may slow that process, but it's about you putting yourself, your own role. Me personally, I don't keep a food for more than 2 days. If I don't eat it the following day, I throw it out. And I don't feel guilty about throwing it out. I'm actually really good at not throwing things out. So that's a win for me. For you guys, it's really about just knowing how to cook. And I understand we will have a different lifestyle. Some people don't have the time to cook as much. So don't put pressure on yourself. The most important thing is remember the mind. And the mind kind of like has an overpower over the body, So keeping that peace of mind, knowing that you've done your best or that you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself is the most important thing. But if you know that you have a way of avoiding leftovers, then I would just be mindful about that and just try to cook a little bit less so I don't keep that much leftovers. So we already talked about raw food, guys. Raw is only for very strong digestive fire, like the Pitta constitution, or we'll talk about signs of good digestion. But if you feel like you're starting to have gassiness after eating a salad, or you feel tired in the first hour of eating a salad and so on, then it means that you should just stop eating salads altogether and just cook every vegetables that you eat, just to help your body incorporate and digest the good food that you're giving it. Because it'd be a shame to just buy organic and beautiful food and then your body doesn't receive any goodness out of it. Then refined and fried food. So refined, like refined sugar, like I told you. The nature has not really designed food that's white, besides the salt. Sugar is supposed to be brown. So try to avoid even white flour, you know. That's not me who says it, that's my Vaidya, Ayurveda. And then microwaved food. So microwave, it's in a natural way of heating your food. It's not like fire. And when you microwave food, it's like a friction of particles, which basically kills all the nutrients that are inside it. All right, now we go to when to eat. So when to eat is as important as what to eat. From a personal experience, in my earlier time, I've been studying Ayurveda for 2 years now. Before that, I was like, I'm just going to listen to my body. And when my body's hungry, I'm just going to eat. So sometimes I could eat once a day, and sometimes I could eat like 4 times a day. I was just like, yeah, this is the way to go. The problem with this is that your body can be completely out of balance and you don't even know. So the cues that you're having, they're just not healthy for you. And you keep on, furthering a practice that's not wholesome. You have to set the base first. Once the base is set, then it's effortless. Now I feel way better because I kind of like reset my internal clock. So the most important aspect of when to eat is to eat after your previous meal has been digested. And that's when your body is basically hungry. When you feel that you're gargling and you're starting to think about food and you have this desire for food is when you should be eating. And it's even more important than talking about the time of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Because if, for example, you have a very low digestive system and you wake up in the morning and you're not hungry for breakfast, you can still eat like maybe a light fruit or drink a ginger tea to kindle the digestion. But if you start having a breakfast just because you're used to having breakfast and you're not hungry, your body's not ready to process it. And what's going to happen is that it's going to create the undigested sludge that we talk about, which is one of the main causes of diseases, ama. Ama is uncooked food in your body. It's supposed to be expelled from the system, but when the digestive fire throughout your body is not up to the part, then you start having blockages and then diseases. So eat only after the previous meal has been digested. Then we have this kind of guidelines just to help. So I put Eastern and Western view because it really depends. Western view, I know some people need time. They need to give them a clock and such. So breakfast would be good early in the morning, 7 to 7:30. Lunch more between 11 and 1 p.m. and dinner between 6 and 7:30 p.m. But if we talk about the Eastern view, it's all about the sun. In the morning, you just wake up as the sun wakes up and think about the world, the universe as your body. You have an inner sun, which is the main Agni in your system, in your stomach, which we call Jatara Agni. You also have Agnis throughout the body, but this is the main one. It's the ruler of your body. This is your sun. It just woke up. So when it just wakes up, it starts to rise, then you start feeling hungry and you're going to eat something. It's a bit light, easy to digest, not too crazy. Then the sun will reach the top around 12. This is when the sun is at the highest. This is where your digestive system is at the highest. So this should be your biggest meal. It should be where you have all your proteins, like how to digest sweets, meats, fish, sour also. This is at lunchtime, so like that. And then when the sun starts setting, before it sets, not after it sets, before it sets, this is also when the remaining of your digestive fire is ready for you to get a meal again. So we say, get something a little bit lighter. So if I give you an example of like a day of food in Ayurveda, it will be when the sun starts to rise, you can get like eggs or porridge or pancakes or something like that. At lunch, you can get your salad if you have good digestion, but like I said, they mostly say avoid, just get some warm cooked food, like rice and a curry, or like some meat and fries. You don't have to think about Ayurveda as just related to everything that's in India. Every diet, every like type of cuisine can adopt an Ayurvedic, mindset if you just understand the ingredients. And then dinner time, you get like a light soup, and then you're good to go. And if you follow those things, the sun, and all those times, and the cues that your bodies are giving you, you are really on the right track. And even that can even heal exhaustion, tiredness, sadness, stress, anxiety, so on, constipation and such.